we have made it officially. My name is Sheridan Alford with the Black AF in STEM, as well as we have our good friend Chelsea here as well. And we're going to work with Noaa Sanctuaries today to name some shearwaters. So Chelsea, I would love for you to give you an introduction to some things that you do and things that you get into.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Connor. I am a birder and a herpetologist. I study at Knowles. I am starting my PhD this fall at Clemson University, me. And I'm from the Commonwealth of Dominica, so like most of my birding experience is in the Caribbean. So I'm still learning a lot of these North American birds, but I'm really excited to get to name these shearwaters with Sheridan today.
Yes, thank you. And so we also have a special guest from Noaa Sanctuaries here, Mr. David Wiley, or Wilson. He's going to give us some background on the birds that we're naming, let us know about the research that's going on. So yeah, welcome, David.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is going to be kind of a fun opportunity to introduce your people to birds they don't usually see, because great shearwaters are way offshore. So most people never see them. So this will be kind of fun.
Yes, I'm excited. So the Noaa National Marine Sanctuaries is the official office, but where are the birds coming from?
Well, our birds are in the Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary. Do you want me to show some pictures? Would that be easier? Or
yes, we love pictures.
Okay. Let's see if I can share my screen. This is always a challenge, right?
Right. I believe in you. We got this.
Let's see. Not there yet.
There we go. Wonderful.
How's that looking?
Boom. Perfect. Seamless.
All right. Haha. Well, like we know what we're doing.
Right.
So these are the birds. These pictures that you're seeing down here are the birds. And we're working in the Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary. I've just got a bunch of names up here of different people on the project, because science these days is not a one-person deal by any means. It takes lots and lots of people with lots and lots of different expertise. But let me tell you first a little bit about the National Marine Sanctuary program in general. So we're part of a Office of National Marine Sanctuaries that has at least 14 national marine sanctuaries around the country. And you can kind of think of these as the coolest places in the ocean. And the red star up here in the northeast part of the United States is where I work, the Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary. So this is where we're working with the shearwaters. It's just off the coast of Massachusetts. It's not huge, maybe, like over 600 square nautical miles, but it's in a really, really cool, productive place with lots of whales and seabirds. And I actually started as mostly being a whale biologist, but because whales and birds are eating lots of times the same things, they're found in the same spot, I started becoming more and more interested in birds. So these are all shearwaters that you're seeing fly around this whale. There's two different types here. Great shearwaters, which are the ones we're going to talk about mostly, are these kind of guys that are right in here, multicolored. And then these are sooty shearwaters that are all just kind of one uniform dark color. And what's cool about them is that they are open ocean birds. They go to land only to nest. The rest of their lives, they're spending entirely at sea. And one of the ways they can do this is they have these tubes on their nose, so they can actually drink salt water, and then they excrete the excess salt right through those tubes. If we tried to drink salt water, we'd all die of thirst. So this is how these animals can stay at sea and drink water without dying of thirst. So it's kind of a neat little adaptation that land birds don't have to worry about, because they just go to a freshwater site and drink. Now, what's really cool about these birds is that they live in two different hemispheres. They're really birds of endless summer. So they spend our summertime up here in the northern hemisphere in the North Atlantic. And then during our winter, they go down here and spend the summer again down in the South Atlantic. And that's where they breed. And they breed in some of the most remote places on the entire planet. There's like maybe 6 million great shearwaters, maybe 10, and they all breed on these couple of islands that are between the tip of South America and the tip of South Africa. They're called the Tristan Islands right in here. And they actually breed in burrows. They don't make nests the way we think of them, but they dig holes and they nest in burrows, and they have one egg that they lay. That's it, just one. And they probably don't do that until they're like 6 or 7 years old. And they might live, we don't really know, but maybe 25 to 40 years, some people have guessed. So long live birds, just one egg, so one offspring every couple of years maybe. And they dive into the water, but not very deep, maybe 5 or 6 feet usually. So they're eating stuff that's really like at the top of the surface of the water. So how are we going to learn about these seabirds that don't come to land, particularly not in our hemisphere? And even when they are on land, they're in holes in the ground where they're really hard to get. So what we do is we put satellite tags on them. This is a satellite tag that you're seeing right here that we're attaching to the back of this seabird. And it's a small tag. It only weighs 12 grams. A penny is about a gram. So you can think about 12 of these pennies lined up on the back of the bird, so not terribly heavy. 12 cents is not exactly what they cost. Each one of these tags costs about $3,000. So it's a bit of investment to put these tags on these birds, but it's really important because it tells us what they are and where they're going. There's this little solar panel. So they're actually able to recharge themselves. So anytime the light is shining on that solar panel, the battery in that tag is actually replenishing its power supply. And that's how we can keep these tags on for many, many months in many cases. And what it does, that tag talks to a satellite. So it's a transmitter that pings out a frequency, and that frequency is picked up by satellites. And then using some really cool Doppler math, it tells you where your bird is on the surface of the planet. Anywhere between within 100 meters of where it is to maybe a couple kilometers, 1.5 miles or so. So really good spatial positioning that you get from these tags that tell you where the birds are in any point in time. So first of all, of course, we have to catch the birds to put the tags on. So what we do is we use bait to get them close to the boat, and then use these long-handled nets and grab them. And then once we catch them, we put them in these little, basically they're cat carriers. You guys, probably a lot of you have cats. So we put them in these cat carriers that we've specially designed so that they are pretty comfortable. And they're surprisingly calm when they get in there. We also line the bottom of that cage with aluminum foil. So when they poop, we can actually collect that material and look at the DNA that's contained in their poop to figure out what they're eating. So that's part of the project. So once we catch them, we bring them back to our boat. The first thing we have to do is weigh them because there's kind of a formula that we use that your tag should not be way more than 3% of the body weight of the bird. So the first thing we do is weigh them and record that weight. So if they're, we could actually put tags on birds that are as light as 400 or 450 grams, but we're pretty conservative. So we don't tag anything that's less than 600 or 700 grams. But then we create a huge data sheet that collects all sorts of data and records all sorts of data. Of course, the whole name of the game for science is collecting data and organizing in a way that makes sense. So here we are again, putting these tags on the backs of these birds. Then we also take other samples in addition to putting the tags on. We put we have them breathe into tubes and with these bags in, and that gives us exhaled gas that we can use to look at stable isotopes and what they've been eating. So we also then take blood samples to figure out what they've been eating. That'll also give us their gender, so we know what the sex of these animals are after we've tagged them. You can't figure out if they're males or females just by looking at them, so we really have to do it genetically. And then with feathers, we can look at contaminants and also food. So we take all sorts of information about these animals. And once we do that, then we get ready and let them go. So we put them back into the water and then they fly away. They actually aren't quite as docile as I've made it out to be. Here's pictures of all of us getting bit at various times. Lance is getting chomped on by a bird here. Peter's got his arm being grabbed. This is the person that's really in charge of doing the satellite tagging for us, Linda Welch, getting bitten. This is my arm after I've been pretty well pounced on by one of these birds. So although they're really fun to work with, they also do not, they're pretty feisty, I have to say. Maybe that's the best way to put it. So once you do that, you release them out and you can call up all this information on your computer. So this is my computer, and all these red lines are where birds have been flying around. So I can just call up on any particular day on my computer and see not only where my bird is on that day, or how many birds. You know, we usually tag between 10 and 15 birds. So they're all flying around, and I can just take my computer and call it up and see where they are and where they've been. So it's a very fun way to do research. So here you're looking at a bunch of years of our data. Hey, that's animated. So all these colored lines that you're seeing are different individual birds in different years. So you can see they're doing a lot of flying around. This is the Gulf of Maine. This is the Stellwagen Bank Sanctuary right here. So the animals are moving around a great deal. But when we take a look at all of this information and we add it all together, then we can use some mathematics again and computer programming to figure out where they're spending most of their time. So in this particular figure, the red areas are going to be the highest use areas for the birds. Then the low use areas are going to be green, medium are yellow, and of course the white areas are areas that they're not traveling into at all. So this is great for management because, for instance, if people are looking to put in wind turbines or doing any sort of offshore energy development or anything, sand mining or something like that, we can then know where they're going to put these development places and know if it's going to be in a high use area for seabirds, in this place, or in this case, great shearwaters, to know how much it might impact them. So, you know, all of our research is really conservation biology. So we find out really interesting things about the birds, but then the whole idea, of course, is to help the conservation of them. So for instance, commercial fisheries, we'll know if they're overlapping with commercial fisheries and where they might be being caught in nets. Shearwaters are caught quite often in fishing nets accidentally by the fishermen. So this gives us an idea of where the birds are and when they're there, so we can make better management decisions. And then one of the interesting parts of it is also, as I was saying in the beginning, they actually fly from here down to the tip of South America. They migrate a distance of around 17,000 miles or 10,000 miles, 17,000 kilometers. And they do it in 25 to 30 days. And then they stay down there and they'll spend the winter down there and then come back here up to our area for the next year. And this is the path they take. These are our birds, and they're taking the same path every year, which is really interesting. Again, maybe 10,000 miles, 28 to 35 days tracking distance. But what's interesting to me is that this panel here you're seeing is wind. So of course, they're in the open ocean. There's no landmarks for them. And the wind is always pushing them in particular directions. But you can see they're still flying in a straight line. So they're actually, our data will show that this animal, for instance, would have been heading in this direction and moving in that direction to compensate for it being pushed off course constantly by the wind. So this really means that it's got some sort of a map. So again, wind pushing it in particular directions, but the birds are staying on course, which means they're flying in a different heading, but staying on course, which means they have a map that we really don't understand right now. So here's two different great shearwaters that are migrating at different times, but following really a very, very similar route. So again, this indicates to us that they have a map that they're following. We just don't know what that map is. So that's your kind of quick introduction to great shearwaters. The birds that we're going to be naming, they're one of my favorite birds. These are some of the ways that you can be tracking them with us over time, and I think people will be giving you more information about that. Twitter is @TrackSeabirds. So that's pretty much your intro to great shearwaters. If you have any questions, that would be cool. Happy to answer them. As I mentioned, these are somewhat expensive tags, and being on the water also costs you a fair amount of money. So these are all the places that provide us funding to try to support this research. So I will now minimize my screen and go back to non-sharing. Let's see, I will do this.
Thank you so much, David. That
There you guys go.
The fact that, like you said, the wind is blowing them all over the place. The fact that the wind is blowing them all over the place, they don't have a map, there are no landmarks. it's really baffling how they actually find their way back and forth over the ocean. So
Yeah, they do it with no landmarks. It's crazy, and
right,
that's one of our goals as scientists is to figure out just how the heck do they do that.
right.
I mean, Chelsea is working on a Knowles, and they also have some pretty crazy ways of moving around and figuring out where they are. Isn't that true, Chelsea? I remember reading something about them in the past that they're pretty crazy animals too.
Yeah, anoles have a lot going on in terms of, figuring out where they are, how they like partition themselves on trees so that they can all like live together regardless of species, as well as like they look up for different dewlap colors and sizes. Um, they're all really interesting animals, and thank you so much for teaching us about shearwaters. I did not know some of those things. I definitely didn't know about the tube nose, and I was really
Good.
Well,
Well, they are fun, but all animals are similarly interesting and fun. So that's why this is such a great career path, right?
exactly.
Right.
All right. Well, with that wonderful presentation, we're going to jump into these names. So all week we had people use the hashtag name that Shearwater, and just give us some options on what to name these 14 research birds. And yeah, we're going to go through the list. There's some fun ones. There's some really, influential ones. So first on the list,
Yeah.
we will start with, we have Naomi. And Naomi can be Campbell. It could be Naomi Osaka. But either way, beautiful, pleasant, gentle. Yeah.
I think that's gonna be like the best looking shearwater that we catch this
For
time.
sure. For sure.
The next name is Sherlock Holmes. I love a good pun. If you follow me on Twitter, you know that very well. So after Sherlock Holmes, and hopefully they'll be able to help solve some mysteries as to their migration and the ecosystem.
Yes. See, look at these ties. Okay. Next we have Bessie. So Bessie would be named after Bessie Coleman. She was the first African American woman and the first Native American woman to hold a pilot's license. So as these birds are navigating their way across the ocean, and essentially teaching us more than we know about flight at this point, yeah, hopefully Bessie can lead us to victory.
Yeah, and she also did air shows. So looks like we have like a high flyer in our group.
Right.
Next is Ashanti, named after Ashanti Johnson, who's one of the first Black chemical oceanographers. In 2010, she won a presidential award for excellence in science, math, and engineering. And she works on diversity-focused initiatives in academia, which is super important. It's part of why we started Black AF in STEM and why we started Black Birders Week, correct?
Yes, of course. The diversity is everything and the inclusion is everything. Okay, I'm glad we went in this order because I was a big voucher for Bonston. One, I just think the name is hilarious. But the backstory that I heard on Bonstons, no, it doesn't have any like actual significance. But people have the name Connie, Connie, and they say that's the shortened version of Constance. And so someone made the joke, well, what is the short version or the long version of Bonnie? It's Bonstance. So I just think it's fun. I think it's hilarious. I suggested meanings: a social person, great companion, graceful. Nickname could be Bonnie. So yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and I'm also happy that we went in this order because now I get to talk about the next name, Arliner. Roger Arliner Young, who I have done like several projects on. I think my professors at MSU, when I went there, were tired of hearing about her. She's the first African-American woman to receive a PhD in zoology.
Nice.
He worked on radiation with sea urchins, structures that control salt concentration in paramecium, and hydration and dehydration of living cells. Her eyes were damaged by the UV rays from her work, but she made a lot of important contributions. She also worked with our next name choice coming up here.
Yes,
Go over for that one.
So Ernest Everett Just, but in the name of keeping it gender fluid, we will do E.E. Just. But this name is named after a marine biologist. He was the pioneer in studies of embryonic development and fertilization. He also did sea urchins and sand dollars with this research. And so he does have links to the marine biology labs. And he also was the founder of Omega Psi Phi at Howard University, if you're into fraternities. So he just was out here really just founding everything at this point. So I thought that would be a great name as well.
Our next name is Dume, after Baba Dume, who is a Senegalese forestry engineer. A quote from him is, "In the end, we will conserve only what we love. We will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we are taught." So I think this is a great name to pick for Shearwater, who that we're hoping to learn a lot from and gain an understanding. And once we have that education and understanding, it's a lot easier to put more effort and get more people interested in conservation and learning even more about different species.
Yes, it's kind of like a phrase for environmentalists to live by, I think. So awesome. Next we have Tuskegee. Many naming factors here. During World War II, some of the Tuskegee Airmen were the first African-American fighter pilots for the U.S. Army Air Corps. They trained over the Great Lakes, and there were 6 Tuskegee Airmen and their aircrafts were lost on those lakes, and of course are commemorated now for their heroism, as well as we have Tuskegee University. So recently, there's a little bit of backstory here as well. So recently, archaeologists have been working kind of to find these aircrafts. They haven't been found this entire time to honor the pilots that put their lives on the line, and the first African Americans to be pilots for the Air Corps. So one lost Tuskegee Airman, Lieutenant Frank Moody. He was killed in his Bell P-39Q Airacobra. I say Airacobra. I'm hoping I pronounced that right. But it crashed in Lake Huron in 1944. So the archaeologist Wayne Lacerdi and partners from the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary and part of Noaa, Office of Ocean Exploration and Research, are the ones that are currently working to excavate and find these aircrafts. So great name for Shearwater as we're working with these offices.
Yeah, it's a really important part of history. So I hope that they'll be able to find as much as possible so that we can properly honor them for their contributions. The next name is a really fun one. I think it's my second favorite, maybe. Brittany Shears. Iconic. That's all I have to say. Just iconic.
That's all you need to say. Brittany Shears. Okay, Brittany Shears. I will definitely be following Brittany Shears, Bonstons. Once we get through the list, we should go through who we're gonna pay attention to.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, next we have Jemison. May Carroll Jemison is an American engineer, physician, and former NASA astronaut. She was the first Black woman to travel into space, of course, and she served as a mission specialist aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour. So May Carroll Jemison, another pioneer, another African American, just paving the way for a lot of astronauts, physicists out here. So yeah, Black and Astro is coming up soon. So
yeah, look out for Black and Astro. Next, we have another fun one. I'm getting all the fun ones. Birdie McBirdface. Shout out to Bodie McBoatface.
Yes, because why not?
Why not?
I support. So Birdie McBirdface. Next, we have Shirley Temple. I have to make sure y'all get your puns. After Shirley Temple, and it's funny. A fun fact: Shirley Temple is actually one of my favorite drinks. So perfect. I love it.
Yeah, and then the last name is Shuri or Sherry, however you want to pronounce it. But it is inspired by Shuri, who is the sister to Black Panther. And depending on what storyline you're following, she became Black Panther for some time herself.
She comes her with the comic knowledge.
Right. And she's a Marvel herself. Get it? Because Marvel.
Yes.
Anyway, that was a bad joke. But
No such thing as bad jokes. Somebody laughed.
Shuri is amazing, and I hope that the Shearwater named after Shuri is going to be just as amazing and clever. So it has a lot to live up to, but I'm sure it can do it.
Yes. And that concludes the actual list. Now, like I said, the ones that I am going to be following, and we will tell you how to best follow these birds. I know Bonston's has my heart. I think E.E. Just also is going to be doing some great things out here. And a third one, I might pick Dume. Like, I really feel like Dume has a great name to live up to, and they're going to show us good stuff. What are your top three?
Number one is Arlener, obviously. I feel like Arlener is going to be the best and longest lived Shearwater out there. Gonna contribute a lot to research. I'm already very proud of Arlener. I think number two, I'm gonna have to go with the Brittany Shears. That's gonna be an iconic bird. Just
the range, okay? The range.
Yes. And then my last one, ooh, this is a tough choice. I don't know how you chose to.
These names are good.
They're very good names. Okay, I'm gonna have to go with Naomi.
Okay.
Icon.
Fair.
Both Naomis, both icons.
Right. You know, I'm gonna have to name my daughter Naomi just because, like, clearly it means greatness.
Clearly greatness comes from this name. I have to like tack it on.
Right. And the great Shearwater named after Naomi will also bring us greatness. So ways that you all can follow up with these birds. Go to the Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary website. It will be in the links. And the info is on a homepage. Will direct you to the internal page. So you all can go straight there. And it will be updated on a regular basis, maybe every 2 weeks or so. So that way you can check in, and Chelsea and I will be tweeting about our birds that we want to follow.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna keep up with them. And occasionally we may do some like update tweets from the Bayfist Twitter account. Look out for that, because we are genuinely really excited to follow these birds. You can also get updates on the Twitter account. We will drop the link for that as well, the Twitter and the Facebook page. And additional info on the Twitter account, Track Seabirds.
Yeah. And with that, what is yours? What are your tags? Gotta follow Chelsea at...
Oh, yeah. Follow me on Twitter at Chelsea Herbs. Instagram is Out to Chelsea. And you can check out my amazing artwork and Chelsea Herbs on redbubble.com. I draw anoles, and sometimes I draw other animals as well.
I was gonna say, get her stickers. I have them on all my things, laptop, water bottle, my popsicles. I love the popsicle ones. But anyway, my name is Sheridan Alford. Follow me on all socials at Beanie, Beanie, Jean, JEAN _, on everything. So Beanie Jean _. And yeah, we'll keep it up. And don't forget to also follow Noaa, NOAA, especially the Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary, and as well as the Twitter Noaa Sanctuaries for the marine sanctuaries. And there you go. And I think that's it. Do we have any questions? We'll answer any questions in the chat as well. So thank you guys for joining us. David, thank you for your amazing presentation. Chelsea, thank you for joining me.
Yeah. And thank you for naming these birds. It makes it way more fun for us. And, you know, calling them by numbers isn't very interesting. So
yeah,
it's more fun. And thank you for doing this with us. It's been a blast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
And we'll keep up. All right, bye everybody.
Bye.